Hi everyone, Catherine Reza here with our first lesson in English 288, Beginning Workshop Fiction, a course whose focus is the study and practice of the craft of writing fiction, in particular the literary short story. The literary short story is a relatively new development. In the 1800s, it emerged as a distinct genre. I like to think Edgar Allan Poe is the origin of the story. People in other countries tend to think differently. How do we write stories? That's what we want to know. Well, if we want to construct something, we take a look at a lot of wonderful versions of it and deconstruct into the components and elements. The elements of fiction are the tools the writer uses to develop narrative strategies. If words are the paint, the elements of fiction are the paintbrush. Kurt Vonnegut's describing the shape of stories, also known as storylines or plots in some cases, and the Cinderella story is found in cultures all over the world and therefore shows the universality of a very common plot structure consisting of the following elements. We call them the 5 C's. We have a character, we have Cinderella, she wants something. Yet that desire is thwarted. Evil stepmother doesn't want her to go to the ball. This leads to escalating rising action, development of crisis. We get a climax moment, after which nothing is the same. Cinderella's a princess. Pretty good. So that's one story. It's over 1,000 years old, yet we said a couple clips ago that the story developed in the 19th century. Different definitions of story. In the general common definition is not what we mean in the discipline of creative writing or English or literature. Here we mean a literary story. This involves not just a series of events told in order, but a series of events often not told in order that have been deliberately and carefully arranged, not only for dramatic situation, not only for emotional significance, but to explore the essence of what it is to be human. So we have those 5 elements that we just talked about, but we have made them much more complex and skillfully applied. Plot is just one of the elements. We also have point of view, detail or descriptive, very specific word choice, characterization, plot, tone, which creates mood, setting, figurative language, and theme. Let's take a look. Point of view. First person is when the narrator is participating in the story. They are a character in the story. When the narrator is not participating, and I'm talking about the narrator, not the author. Narrator and author are different. We have third person, and very rarely we have second person, which is hard to do well. Third person is probably the most common. Omniscient, you are a fairy godmother. You see and know all. You, including into the heads and the thoughts and the histories and the backstories of everyone in the story and pretty much everything involved with the story. Limited omniscient is also referred to subjective. We're in the head of perhaps just a couple of the characters, maybe just one. It's really from their point of view. Objective, just the facts, ma'am, reporter style. We only see what is visible to be seen, hear what can be heard, as if we were watching the story on a movie screen. Characterization. Your characters are created or revealed to the world just like you are. We reveal so much about ourselves based on what we choose to wear, how we choose to carry ourselves, what we do, what we say, what we think, and how we do it. And we create characters by giving them the same attributes and revealing about them. Tone. Tone is what creates mood. Tone involves very particular word choices which consistently create a style. And we have a great example that I found on the web, it's not mine, of using different kinds of diction and syntax. Diction refers to word choice, what words are used. Your syntax is sentence structure. So if we have, let's say we're doing something from Game of Thrones, medieval big, giant, fat novel that some people dismiss as genre, but I believe has enough of the characteristics of literature to quote-unquote transcend genre, which I don't like because it seems to denigrate certain genres more than other. I'm getting ahead. I'm going on a tangent. Here we go. All right, so I have a simple peasant, poorly educated. They're going to use simple Anglo-Saxon diction, even though Anglo-Saxon doesn't exist in the Game of Thrones world. They're going to use simple words that came from the old way in English, from the German, and a simple syntax. Then, let's say we have some upper-class hoity-toity person going around, or somebody trying to be one. They might use words more derived from the Norman French, or they might use English words derived from Latin. So the word choice immediately creates character, and immediately creates who that character is trying to be, or is naturally at that point. All right, we're just moving on. Sorry that my phone rang. Here we go. Setting, time, place, and climate. If we have a simple story, a fairy tale version of Cinderella, then the setting is once upon a time in a land far, far away. Very vague. The more literary, we tend to create much more specifics. Those specifics can be anything from for instance, the novel Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, in which the Cinderella story is set in Holland a couple of centuries ago. Very particular place, time, etc. Setting can sometimes be limited not to, okay, what country, what year, but something as simple as, is it raining? What does the weather look like? Where is this taking place? And all the ways that can affect character, action, mood, tone, etc. Figurative language, very large categories: metaphor, simile, and symbol. We, in literary fiction, spend an incredible amount of time considering symbol, recognizing as writers, wow, I've got some symbols in here. I was just trying to tell a story. Let's see if we can develop that. Let's see what we can do in terms of exploring and creating theme. Which brings us to theme. Theme is probably the most difficult or challenging thing for us to talk about. We talk about them as students of literature all the time. As writers, we try not to start with theme because it's too overwhelming, but look at what themes come out. If we're writing about the human condition and we happen to be humans, the themes, the kernels of themes will be there. So we don't tend to want to read stories with a very simple didactic moral, not as we become older people with a more complex understanding of the world and of humans, and we don't want to start out to write them. When we're discussing theme, which we certainly will in this class, we want to recognize there can be multiple themes. We want to recognize that if you can say it in one sentence, something is being lost. That as Flannery O'Connor said, somebody asked her what the story means, one of her stories meant, and she said, the story means every single word in it contributes to the meaning. If I could say it to you in 3 sentences, I wouldn't need to write the story. All right, the challenge for you is to take a look at these fundamental components, which we're going to go into in much greater detail throughout the semester. But at this point, take a look at them as our sort of overview, as our toolbox, and as we examine stories and as we create exercises to examine their strategic use and to practice their specific use. Thank you.